Hey, what's going on, everyone? Today I have someone special for you. It's a man by the name of Saikat Chakrabarti. Now, he's a Bangladeshi American political candidate running against Nancy Pelosi. The cool thing was back in 2019, he was the chief of staff to AOC's victory against Joe Crowley. And now he's running for Congress as well. So let's just take a look at his one of his intro speech and just kind of get to know the person, Shortcut.
For Congress against Nancy Pelosi here in San Francisco. My name's Saikat Chakrabarti, and I wanted to do a quick campaign update to tell y'all how things are going. I moved out to San Francisco in 2009, about a year after college, pretty much the first chance I got, because I've always been in love with the idea of the city. I've worked in progressive politics for the past decade or so. I worked on Bernie's 2016 campaign, and I started a group called Justice Democrats right after that, which recruited progressive candidates all across the country to run for Congress. One of the people we recruited was AOC, and I ended up running her campaign in 2018, and then I went and worked as her chief of staff in Congress, where I was in charge of writing and launching the Green New Deal. I'm running on things like universal health care and universal child care. I'm also running to end corruption in our government. We gotta ban members of Congress from owning and trading stocks. We gotta ban the revolving door between Congress and the lobbying industry. And I'm also running to get rid of money in politics for real. We gotta move towards a publicly financed campaign election system. I'm also running to tackle the extreme wealth and income inequality in our society. We got to make sure the rich pay their fair share of taxes. We've also got to invest in high-wage, high-value industries all across the country to make America the green global industrial powerhouse, to be a part of this green transition that's happening with or without us right now.
All right, so just wanted to watch that video, and there's another one on MSNBC where he did an interview with I forgot the person's name, but it's not Mehdi Hassan. But let's take a look at this interview on MSNBC.
You believe it is time to replace the establishment, and why you think you can seat a titan of Democratic politics like Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, well, I worked on Bernie's campaign in 2016, and I started this group, Justice Democrats, where we were trying to recruit people to run for office back in 2018. That's how we recruited AOC to run. And the message we were trying to push back then was that if Democrats can't actually improve people's lives, we can't use democracy to fix the dire problems that Americans have been facing for decades, because for decades now, wages have been stagnant for most people while the cost of essentials have been going up and up and up, then authoritarians will win again in 2024. I didn't think it would be Trump again, but we did see that happen. And after Trump won the second time, I just saw the Democrats' reaction to it, and it felt like they were treating this like just another moment in politics. We're just waiting for the backlash of Trump to build up, and we'll win off of that. I heard Nancy Pelosi go on a podcast and talk about, when she was asked, how should the Democratic Party change? Her answer was, we don't need to change. We did our best in the last election cycle. And then she actually came on MSNBC and talked about how Democrats will have a strategy in 6 to 7 months. And I just don't think that's acceptable. I think the moment we're in right now is really dire. We actually need to be doing everything we possibly can. And frankly, I don't believe Nancy Pelosi this time around has been. She hasn't done a town hall. She's actually the only, since 2019, she's actually the only member of Congress who doesn't sit on a committee right now. So she's not doing legislating. And what we're seeing on the doors, because we're running a massive grassroots campaign, is it is possible. This appetite for change right now in the Democratic Party, it completely dwarfs what I saw in 2018. And the door knocking is showing that out, and the polling is actually bearing that out as well.
So I'm curious, when we talk about this...
See, people are excited for a generational change, man. Like, it's not about just business as usual. These incumbent politicians, they get into power, they sit there, they help out their friends, get government contracts, they get money from lobbyists, and it is so despicable that that's how our government works, is through lobbyists, Citizens United. You can use unlimited dark money to basically buy votes or craft legislation in this country. That's crazy to me. But anyway,
this idea of Democrats running on a strong anti-corruption, anti-money in politics kind of plank. I'm wondering if you could talk about congressional stock trading, which is something that is wildly popular. I mean, it's like an 80-20 issue, and yet Congress cannot ever get it passed.
Yeah, I believe all the anti-corruption issues are what Democrats need to be running on super hard. When you talk about congressional stock trading bans, banning the revolving door between Congress and the lobbying industry, getting rid of the corrupting influence of big money in our politics by overturning Citizens United, all this stuff polls at close to 90%. It's bipartisan. And what I think we have to do, because, yeah, people in Congress are not going to legislate themselves. What I plan to do if I get in there is I'm going to file a discharge petition on this issue to do a congressional stock trading ban on day one. A discharge petition is a technique to force a floor vote when the Speaker of the House is not allowing a bill onto the House floor. It's what Ro Khanna is doing right now with the Epstein files vote. I think that's the kind of strategy we need to use on these sorts of bipartisan issues. Make it the forefront of what everyone's talking about, because if we go into 2028 with corruption being the thing everyone's talking about, and if Democrats can really be a party that stands for anti-corruption, which means we have to clean our own house too, I do think we can really win.
You will be representing San Francisco, the place where the $100,000 H-1B fee on the visa really is going to have impact. Where do you stand on that decision by the Trump administration?
It's going on right now, guys.
I think the H-1B program absolutely needs reform, right? Like, I do believe we've got to not have it be tied to employers so that H-1B employees are not essentially indentured servants to their employers. I think we've got to up the minimum wages that we're offering to H-1B visas so it has a upward push on the wages of American workers. But the way Trump's going about it is utterly chaotic, and I think it's going to destroy the H-1B program overall, which will have a devastating impact. We don't have the doctors and the nurses and the engineers and the scientists to actually staff up our economy right now. It's going to be devastating for our economy. So what he's doing is absolutely horrible.
Shrika, let me ask you about something that is playing out right now.
Before we get to that, I mean, it's so crazy because we're losing our high-tech skill jobs. You know, H-1B visas definitely need reform, but like a lot of my uncles came to the United States in the 1970s through H-1B visas. There were engineers, there were students, there were scientists, you know, and that's the only way South Asians could come to the United States because of the Asian Exclusion Act. But now we're no longer, you know, showing the rest of the world that we're a shining beacon on a hill, you know, that the best and brightest can come here, get educated, and then, like, you know, we use them, we utilize them in our economy. But now you're seeing a trend, especially because of the Trump administration, that the smartest students, engineering, medicine, mathematics, they're taking their high skills, their degrees, and they're not trying to look for jobs here in America anymore. They're taking the things that they learned from us, from our universities, and taking it back to their home countries. China and India are like producing, I think, one engineer every minute. You know, what are we doing as a country if we're not falling back?
Now, and I'm sure if you are elected, something that may come up again in potentially the last 2 years of a Trump presidency, if you are elected in 2026, and that is the government shutdown. We've been having a discussion right now as to whether the Democrats should be forcing a government shutdown or allowing the government shutdown to happen. They're trying to negotiate with the White House.
So just so you guys know, the government shutdown going on right now, the Trump administration passed the Big Beautiful Bill, which cuts Medicare subsidies, basically poor people getting health care, right? Poor people and old people getting health care. Their premiums that they help support are going to go up. So basically, you know, someone like my mom paying about $200 a month may see their premiums go up $400 a month. Now, she's only paying $200 a month because she gets it subsidized. You know, if it was normal healthcare, she would be paying about $500 to $800 a month just for the privilege of having health insurance, not utilizing it for the privilege of just having that card.
Does not want to negotiate with him. A lot of criticism about the leadership of the current Democratic Party for not being more forceful. We heard Susan Del Percio earlier on the program going after Chuck Schumer about it. Just give me your thoughts on what you think the Democratic leadership should currently be doing in this moment that they're not doing, or something that they are doing that they should be doing more of, that they're doing well.
They've got to fight. They absolutely need to be going to the mat and being willing to shut down the government.
Specifically? Give me the specifics of what that fight looks like.
It means that unless we get actual safeguards around things like ICE just picking people up off the streets, against things like Trump just bombing civilians in international waters with no accountability, against Trump throwing the military into Portland, like, we have to be clear that he is going for this authoritarian coup. He's doing the exact same thing we've seen done in country after country. He's following Erdogan's playbook. He's following Orban's playbook. It's to the T. It's to the T. And if we don't take that seriously, I think these moments where there's a government shutdown bill, these are the few times the Democrats have some leverage to actually call out what's happening and fight. And yes, we're going to have to win a media battle. And I've seen this happen so many times. I've worked in Congress for a year, and Democrats, they constantly assume that we're going to lose the media battle before even fighting it. And that's why they often preemptively cave, I'll be frank. And we can't afford to do that because this coup is happening right in front of us.
So let's talk through I just want to follow up on Eamon's question on the shutdown. So let's talk this through. Say the government does shut down. Republicans seem to have a lot of appetite for that, seemingly endless appetite for dismantling the federal government. What's the game plan? I mean, I understand that the base wants fight, and I certainly see that. But, there's early voting in Virginia. The New Jersey, I mean, there are two big off-year elections happening. I mean, what do you think what's the threshold for pain? It feels like Democrats don't have a lower threshold than the Republicans.
I mean, I think when you talk about, say, the election in Virginia, right? Democrats absolutely have to win the messaging battle when it comes to elections like that. And I talk to federal workers all the time. Federal workers want the fight because right now, the way they're feeling is this death by 1,000 cuts. Right. So I would be surprised. I would actually be willing to bet that the federal workers in Virginia would like that. They don't want this this dismantling, slow walking and dystopia that we're facing right now. So yeah, it's going to mean shutting down the government. And then the party has to actually act like organizers of civil society. I think that's the way you start fighting this sort of creeping authoritarianism, because the way it works, with authoritarianism, it's this constant process of making the abnormal normal. They're constantly pushing the boundaries and testing the limits of their power. So when they're coming after civil society, when they're coming after, law firms or universities or now free speech and media companies, if Democrats, after they, call for the shutdown, they have to start organizing civil society in collective blocks to be opposing that sort of threat on their rights.
All right, Saikat Chakrabarti, it's great to have you on the show. We look forward to having more conversations with you as this race progresses. Thank you so much.
All right. So that just kind of gets to the point that, like, some of our, incumbent Democrat leadership, like Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they don't get asked these hard questions, and they don't get, like, hey, what are Democrats doing? What is the game plan? Why aren't you guys fighting enough, right? They tend to take these things, these fights with Republicans, and they shy away from it, or they say, hey, my fellow, Americans, we can come to a solution. But, like, being centrist is not a solution. Having a crazy idea, like, let's kick people off of health insurance, and then coming to the middle of that is still a crazy idea. Let's kick half the people off of insurance. Let's just kick the poor people off of insurance is essentially what they're saying in this fight, in this government shutdown fight. But, like, these were direct comments from the candidate, and that's what I wanted to show you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. Come back anytime if you want to see more candidates like Saikat, like Zoran. I'll be talking more and more about as the campaign continues, okay? Always be alert, guys, and stay safe. Bye.